Warning, this podcast typically features spoilers and strong opinions. Proceed with caution.
Dune, 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 dune.
Oh my God. You're so stupid.
Welcome to another episode of Two Grooms, One Plot. The podcast where two lifelong storytellers who are married
maybe not for long
talk about stories. I'm Pavi Prochko. Wow. You're ruining my flow. Audiobook narrator. Oh my God. I'm Pavi Prochko, audiobook narrator, author, performer, etc.
And I am Colin Funk, childhood development expert and teaching artist.
And today we are going to be talking about Dune, parts 1 and 2. But first, let's talk about our moment of the week.
Sure.
What do you got?
I want to talk about the Great North. Is it the Great North?
The Great North.
Yeah, I just like sing it to the Simpsons themes every time.
That's very funny.
But we were watching Great North this week, so it's the most recent episode.
Mm-hmm.
And new character played by Jane Lynch this season, Aunt Dirt. She's amazing. They were all helping Wolf.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they're all helping
his friend
Wolf and
Cheesecake.
his friend. The names on this show are amazing.
Yes.
First of all, we found out last episode, not the episode I'm talking about, that Aunt Dirt was like living under their house in a bunker for decades.
They thought she was dead.
Yes. So she's a rediscovered family member, but so now it seems like they've just like added her as a character. Very silly. And so they're helping out Wolf's friend try to get a job. And so they're like literally like in a van outside coaching him through this job over the phone. And they do it and they're like, yay, they had a successful day. And then Wolf wants them to do it again, tries to convince them to do it again. And everyone's like, no, we all have lives. We did it the one time. That's, if he fails, it's his fault. And so he's like, come on, what are we going to do this time? Are you going to do, can you do this? Can you do this? And then like,
Aunt Dirt, can you do like anything?
Can you do something this week? And she's like, nope. He's like, maybe you could just like fart a little bit less. And she goes, maybe not, bitch. And it like took me off guard because it's like so wholesome and so sweet. And like, just like that line out of nowhere, the way she said it.
Oh, it's so funny.
And that's my moment of the week it tickled me so much.
We watched it like 4 times.
Yeah, we went back and watched it so many times.
Oh my God. It was so silly. I love Jane Lynch.
She's very, very funny. Who knew?
Yeah.
Everyone knew.
Good. That's a good moment. Nice. Mine, I'm going to talk about Abbott Elementary.
Oh, love.
It's a good show. Like it. And there was an episode last night that was really interesting. I don't remember when it was, but we watched it last night.
We watched it last night.
And
who knows when when this is posted, it's not anywhere near
who knows. So in this episode, Janine, the go-getter teacher who's like all wholesome and wants to like do everything really good. She's very optimistic. She is now working for the district and she wants to implement a new library program.
Yes.
Well, her mentor and
the most senior teacher at
the school,
Barbara, who I believe got moment of the week, has gotten it at least
a few times
before.
For sure.
She's awesome.
She does not like this library situation because it like gets in the way of her flow. And Janine ends up kind of standing up for herself and saying, hey, it's actually working for everybody. And it just like all the students are finding success in it. And it seems to just not be working for you and you are wrong. And she has this like crisis of conscience moment where she has to kind of like stand up to her mentor and the person she looks up to the most.
Yeah. It's a big moment.
It's like a really big character moment for Janine.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, it's
series wide.
Yeah. I mean, it's a huge step in character development for sure.
And the moment I want to talk about is after that, all the teachers are expected to give their feedback on this program, and Barbara ends up giving her feedback, and it is all positive.
Yeah.
So after this whole episode of her complaining and having all these reasons to complain about it, the feedback she gives is, you know what, it is excellent, and
the program should be
implemented, right? And I thought
so implying that this conversation between Janine and Barbara, where they like are at odds, and Janine is like, hey, you should really think about this. That is like implying that is it. While it didn't get fixed or resolved in that moment,
it did later, right? And though I appreciate that, I want to focus on this moment because it was something that it fell on my ear really strangely. It like didn't sync up quite.
Yeah.
Didn't quite make sense story-wise, because after all this whole episode where you're watching Barbara have, whether or not you agree with her, they're kind of like legitimate concerns about what is happening with the library. You're creating a bureaucracy, or you're maybe putting up roadblocks. You're gatekeeping the library now. When I was able to do the thing that I was able to do, I was able to use it at any time I wanted for the last 30 years, and it was very successful.
At the very least, it is forcing Barbara to change up her teaching style almost completely.
Right. And that is a problem because she is very valuable to the school and she has great seniority. And I just thought that after that conversation, I don't mind her having a change of heart, but there's just one small change in this email that she sends us the feedback. If she had just put in that, like the legitimate concerns that she had, if it had just said, I'm concerned about the bureaucracy, it's changing up my style. Yeah. However, I do see that it is helping all these other students. Right. And I just, because this is a team effort, and I know who's running this program. I know they're going to listen to the teachers. I don't want to just sink this program alone.
I mean, if she's reminded, like, hey, this is a program that even I wanted at some point. Like I do want a more robust library program. This because she was excited about it in the beginning.
Right.
Because she wants a robust library program.
Yes.
And she just kind of has this flip when she realizes that it like is really making her job more difficult.
Right.
And if there was a little bit more
kind
nuance,
of that, yeah.
Like
in that,
I'm seeing these real concerns, but in the end, I am also seeing that the values I want like outweigh my concerns, but I don't want my concerns to be ignored.
Right. And I wish that had been in the email, and that would have fixed the whole issue. Yeah. And this is what we mean when we talk about how like there's some moments where it's that moment would have actually really just shored up the story.
Yeah, because like we said, I think they handled the actual moment with Janine standing up to Barbara.
They handled that very well. The whole episode is really good.
Yeah.
That whole arc
it's a really smart conflict that they've created. I thought it was really well crafted, and that show is really good at finding the gray areas, or not even gray, but like the areas where it's like, yeah, it is good for these reasons and difficult for these reasons. And we have to, like, it's a daily constant struggle. And that's like what education goes through regularly is like this push and pull between like, yes, we want them to have this resource, but if we give them this resource and then they're losing out on this thing, or, like that. And it is always complicated, and there's never a right answer. And that show is very good at being like, this is not a simple answer.
Right.
And just because Barbara thinks this does not make it, like, she's not the wise end all be all, I know everything.
Yeah.
I can't be wrong, or I can't be even slightly wrong about things.
Right.
She's often like not nobody's perfect.
Yeah, nobody's perfect. And this is kind of it's the only moment I can remember really in the show where it ends up really flattening the conflict, where it turns from this kind of like double factor thing where there are trade-offs into like, oh, actually there was a right answer and here it is.
Sure. Sure, that is how it
It's
makes
how
it
it
feel.
makes it
I don't
seem.
even think it was intended to do that.
No, probably not. It
which
just
is-
doesn't give the full breadth of the
Right. In the
kind of
resolution,
yeah.
we've kind of ignored some of the nuance.
Right. Yeah. The things that were at stake for Janine are not on display. It's like I had nothing to worry about actually is kind of where it ended up getting to. And that feels weak to me.
Yeah. I mean, it should have been, they should have done the Devil Wears Prada thing where we get this like almost scathing review.
Yeah.
It's like, this program, it didn't work for me for this, didn't work for me for this. It was horrible because of this, but you'd be an idiot not to do it.
Right.
Just like
how Miranda says in
it was just fun.
Devil Wears Prada, which is like a fun thing.
It's
It's like, oh, the biggest disappointment of my life, and you'd be an idiot if not to hire her.
yeah. I think it could have. Then we wouldn't just be ignoring it. We wouldn't be. It feels so quick. I mean, we talked about it after, like, this episode, that conflict between Janine and Barba, because it's such a big development, could have been stretched over more than one episode.
Yeah.
And even more than one issue.
Mm-hmm.
And
I wish it had. Yeah, they could have. Yeah, they could have done these. In the Parks and Rec tradition, where you have these like arcs that go on for episodes
a
and
season
episodes.
arc or a half season arc. And
they've done that on the show too with Janine and Gregory, and they're still at it. And it's just
yeah.
I just
think
wish
it is
this
a kind of like a bigger thing. I wish to see more of that, like, because it's going to be. I want to see more of that growth from Janine. Like that is very interesting, and I want and her being part of the district is like, we're seeing a lot of growth in a lot of areas.
Yeah.
And we could slow that down.
Yeah.
Like that show could like it.
You got time.
They're doing well.
Yeah.
And I think they could take a breath and be like, great, we can kind of relax into it, because we can watch a lot more development.
Right.
And I don't know. Otherwise, like, again, all of that from just one moment.
Right.
All of that thought. And
right. Just that one moment. So, moments.
very important.
Very important. All right.
Let's get to the actual.
Let's get to the actual story. Dune. We'll do our switch it synopsis.
Oh, are we doing both of them? Can we do?
We are doing both of them, but we're
keep
gonna keep it quick, and we're gonna be on top of each other for this. Okay. So, a long time ago.
Yeah. You're so funny.
So this story, it follows Paul Atreides, the scion of a great house. His father has just been given governorship of this planet, Arrakis, where they harvest Dune, which is important.
Spice. They harvest spice.
I'm sorry, they harvest spice. You're right. It used to be called Dune. Anyway, Arrakis. They harvest spice there.
Oh, you're
important
doing really well.
for space travel.
Intergalactic travel.
It's the most valuable thing.
It's only on Arrakis.
It's only there, right? So, and it's like infinite, apparently.
So the Emperor
has someone taking. He's like had the Harkonnens.
The Harkonnens, they were in charge of,
and they've been removed, and the Atreides have been
okay. We
put
actually
there.
have to finish sentences, though.
I know. I'm trying to go faster.
I know, but I haven't finished a sentence yet.
Okay, finish your sentence.
I don't even remember. Okay, so Harkonnen's gone. They're not in control of the spice anymore. The Atreides are in, but only for like a day before the Emperor sends the Harkonnens back to kill them all.
Right.
So
Paul gets away.
Paul and his mother.
And they end up with the Fremen, which are the natives there.
Natives of Arrakis.
And they start, kind of two things start happening at once, where there is a small kind of guerrilla war happening as the Harkonnens are back to harvest, and they're trying to disrupt it. And then there's also this like holy thing happening where his mom is trying to like fulfill this prophecy, because she's like
Paul
part of
Atreides
this.
is the prophet.
Right. She's part of this secret society.
Yes.
He is the one.
He's the one. They think. We don't know.
We don't know. Eventually,
where does the first movie end? It ends like,
it ends basically when he's like, no, we're not good. They're like trying to get off planet. And then he ends up being like, no, actually what we're going to do is we're going to stay.
want to stay and become friends with the Fremen.
And become friends with the Fremen. So then movie 2 starts, and they're
we're watching Paul
lead this,
like get in with the Fremen.
Yeah.
Then slowly do these tasks that like prove that he's the one.
Yeah.
And he's like resisting fulfilling the prophecy because in his visions, he's starting to see that like if he takes over, that he's going to start a holy war.
Right.
And he also has this relationship with Zendaya's character. I don't remember that character's name.
Yeah, Cheap. Hey, Colton, you got this one?
Chani.
Yes, Colton, I think really probably enjoyed it. He's seen it, so we're going to ask Colton some opinions as well as we go. So get ready. Cool.
So
we got a thumbs up.
Relationship with Chani.
Yeah, so he's got this relationship with Chani.
He's like, I'm going to be with you forever. So he's going through all these trials, like very standard hero trials to like become the hero.
Right.
And he eventually like makes his way to the south.
Where he kind of takes up the mantle.
He like drinks the water of life and doesn't die. So now he's like accepted as the one. He has this big scene where like he goes into the room and he's like, you will follow me.
And then he sends a letter to the emperor telling him basically that Atreides is still alive and that he's challenging him to a duel.
Yes.
The emperor arrives, has one of the Harkonnen nephew people, like a lieutenant, be his champion.
Yes,
Paul wins.
The nephew of the leader of the Harkonnens.
Yes. Paul wins the duel and gets revenge for his father's death by killing the Harkonnen patriarch. He has the emperor...
Doesn't kill the emperor.
No, he has the emperor kiss his ring.
And he takes the emperor's daughter's hand in marriage.
Right. Which does not make Zendaya very happy.
No, she's pretty mad.
The Harkonnens, meanwhile, have sent for the other great houses to come, and so they arrive with like big battleships, and it's like
they sent a message to the houses to be like, he's the new emperor.
Yeah,
and they're like, we're not going to accept.
We're not going to accept that.
Kind of
and so then it starts at the end of the movie. The Holy War has begun.
The Holy War has begun, and he's like, we're still going to free the Fremen.
Yeah.
We're gonna lead you to paradise still.
Right.
So that's where movie 2 ends.
Yep. With Zendaya. That is the last image we see.
She's
calling
a worm.
She's calling a worm. She's gonna go ride a worm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. That's it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Which honestly, it's like
that's pretty much everything.
It's not. Oh, there's like some other factions at play.
Yeah.
The
Bene Gesserit. Bene
Gesserit and
his mom is like part of the Bene Gesserit. They have like magic powers and stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of things. There's like a lot, but also not a lot going on.
Yeah,
just like overall, if you look at it, it's like there's a bunch of factions. We see like it feels science fiction. It feels a little fantasy.
Yeah.
It feels a little like spiritual. It feels like a lot of different things all at once.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what's the
thread?
What's the thing?
Yeah.
It's a lot, but also then like movie, there's like 10 minutes of just like sand.
So much sand. Yeah. So what I think I want to start with just generally, what did you think?
Yeah, well, let's ask Colton first. I'm curious.
Colton, generally, what did you think
of like the
Just
two movies
everything.
as a whole? Or
Yeah. Do you like?
the
did you
two
like
movies as a whole? You can talk about them separately too, but you know.
As a whole, I really like them together. I had some doubts after seeing the first one, but kind of just assumed like this is probably story building and world building, and we'll get to the real juice of the story in part 2. But
Right.
as a whole, if I were to go back and have a 6-hour marathon watching both of them back to back, I think I would really enjoy it. Like I would enjoy the first one more like that. But as a whole, I thought it worked really well and I enjoyed it.
Did you read them?
I did not read them, but my girlfriend is currently reading them, so I will be reading them soon.
Okay. Interesting.
Because I mean, I think you're right. Where the first movie felt it felt slower, not.
Yeah, and that was happened. Like that was the one thing I knew about it was like that first one was just kept getting.
It's like more exposition.
It was
it's
all
more like
story
world
setup. Yeah,
which like with a big epic like this, I'm not like that mad.
I'm not mad at the concept. No.
Yeah. But in general, what about you? What was your takeaway?
I didn't like it.
Okay. Yeah.
Sorry, Colton. I did not like it. And
my question, yes. I guess, real quick, is it you don't like the story, or you don't think the movie told the story well?
I'm not sure. I don't think the movie did it well, and I think it looked pretty.
Yeah.
And that can sometimes convince people it's a good movie.
I guess part of my asking that, because I agree to an extent. And I think like my perspective is that like not only is it like a well-produced movie.
Yeah.
It's generally well acted and well.
Yeah.
And like,
I mean, and the story is...
It's not hard to watch necessarily, other than times where I'm like, I'm a little bored.
Yeah.
It's very long and I'm like, okay. But I think my point is that like, I think the story should be interesting. Like it should, like the way it's actually designed is, let me finish what I'm saying.
Go ahead, please speak.
It's like the story, I feel like I might get bored by the book because it's long and I tend to get bored by longer epics. But like if you condensed it and like really told the story with like really strong story markers, I think the story is interesting. Mm-hmm. I think like because I think it's well produced enough that even though I think most of those things were kind of weren't crafted super well, but because they existed, even though they weren't like highlighted, they exist and they're implied. So I think it's something to grab onto. There's something that people can follow still, story-wise. But you have to infer a lot of it.
Yeah.
That's kind of my feelings. Like it's not a wholly unpleasant experience watching them.
Right.
I just think I wasn't as impressed with the story as I thought I was going to be.
Yeah. I think I'm latching onto you saying that it's like the things are all there. The requisite parts of a story are there. And it is, I felt like it was relying on me to fill in some blanks and that's not necessarily like a bad practice in general with some stories.
Right.
I'm going to get a little technical. I'm going to get like a little bit theoretical here. Okay.
Okay.
So there is, it's important when you're having a story told that there's like a clear kind of perspective from which it's being told, right? So it doesn't necessarily have to be like explicitly known, but in order for me as the audience member to understand what is important and what I'm supposed to care about, you need what we're going to call author-owned beats, right? So they are these beats. I'm giving you. Okay. Author-owned beats are beats where the author, quote unquote, is telling you what you need to know.
Okay.
In order for this to have meaning.
Yeah.
It is a relevance filter. What is relevant? I'm not going to tell you everything about Arrakis because you don't need to know everything about Arrakis. I'm only going to tell you the little things that you need to know as you need to know them, or just immediately before you need to know them. Right?
Makes sense.
Agreed. if you are lacking those, and they can be as simple as like transitions from one place to another or from one time to another. This is a way that an author can use an author-owned beat in order to create context for a story, right? You need that context. And I felt like so much of the film, they had so much like of those moments, story moments, their inciting incidents and their climaxes, that they needed to get rid of all of like the connective tissue. There were so many moments where I was like, where are we? What's happening now? Did we just move to somewhere else? And I'm not sure what I'm supposed to care about right now because you haven't even told me why this is important.
But I guess like my thought on that is like I am having the opposite problem. Like we're living in the connective tissue.
Really?
Like we see the beats and you tell them, you just told me that they happened, but like we're not actually like living those moments.
Yeah. I guess that's what, I mean, you kind of, I think we're probably saying the same thing.
I'm sure, but
because
like,
it's like living, like merely seeing the climactic moment isn't enough. You need to know why the climactic moment was a huge risk.
Yeah, no,
all of that, and that doesn't happen. It's like when I think about,
let's take an example from the movie we're talking about.
Yes, take an example from the movie.
I think the big one that sticks out is like the trial in the desert for me.
Yeah. Trial in the desert.
Like they set up that he is going to go out and survive in there. You got to go over there, survive in the desert and come back. Like they set up this thing. I don't know if he's going to make it.
Right.
And then
it happened, I assume. I don't know when it happened.
I don't know.
But because immediately after that, it's over. Or Zendaya finds him and...
Is that part of
it?
Is
I'm not even sure. And that's what this is what I mean. I don't know. I don't know, one, if he's gone on this journey. Two, I don't know why he needs to go on this journey because we haven't really been told. We have to deduce. They did
say that was like one of the trials. He needs to be able to like survive in the desert to be the one.
Yeah,
so
but even that information isn't all that clear. That was, I think, I know that. And I recall while watching it, I suppose I can be proven wrong for sure, but I recall while watching it that I have ultimately deduced a lot of these things. I have deduced the importance of the great houses. I have deduced the important, like what is a prophetic trait of the one, but we haven't actually been told, hey, we've got this thing and there's the one and he's going to fulfill some prophecies. And so just look out for that is kind of what we need as an audience.
I don't know.
Instead of just being...
I do feel like they did that.
I do not.
I feel like they hit us over the head with he just has to do these trials. He has to we see the signs, look for the signs. There's more signs. Oh, once he does that, then we'll be more sure. Oh, is he going to go out in the desert? Why is he sending him out in the desert? Why do you think it's the sign? Like I thought they were just like, I get it. He's doing trials, but it almost felt like they didn't, felt like they didn't take aside for me. Like obviously what's his face played by
Javier Bardem,
he was like, he wants to prove that this is the prophet.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like actively saying like, you're gonna do this now, you're gonna do this now, you're gonna do this now. But they don't make it so explicit that he's like, okay, we were gonna do this because I want you to do this because of this. Like it's maybe like not being said, but it's also not like, I would have found it more interesting if it was like, oh my God, he just did the thing and we weren't even trying to make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
It just happened.
Right.
But it was clear that it was like being set up, which is fine. Like I don't mind it, but even that wasn't a strong enough choice. And maybe that's what you're seeing where they're not like setting it up that much. But I really do feel like they made me feel from the beginning like he's about to do all the trials to whether or not he's going to be the prophet, because we kept just getting back to that point over and over again. And it felt like very prescriptive where it's like, all right, here's the next thing you do. All right, you succeeded. Here's the next thing you do. All right, you succeeded. They're like, it doesn't feel like there's a lot of, well, the first movie was like just conflict. The second movie felt like no conflict. Or like any conflict was very easily pushed through.
Yeah, I think that setup is probably what I'm missing. Like I'm trying to think of an example of when it works in a different film. And I'm going to use Lord of the Rings. Okay? Because Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring has a very similar vibe to the first Dune movie in that it is like a lot of setup. Yet, we have people we care about. We have context. We know what's important and why it's important. And it's like the scene where Gandalf is telling Frodo what this ring is. We get to see the story. He tells us what this is.
Yeah.
This is why this is important. And we're going to go do this thing. Right? That is, we never got that. That is kind of this like, yes, Gandalf is speaking, but that's like an author-owned beat where they're like, hey, you guys, this is actually, you need this context to understand why it's important that Frodo's going to leave his home and go journey across the forever and make this happen.
Yeah.
You need that. If he hadn't had that little speech, it'd be like, even if we knew that Frodo knew the story
And
like,
didn't know ourselves.
Right. Like we can deduce all the things because they would have had conversations where they sprinkle in little bits of pieces of information. So we'd be like, oh, I guess that's what's happening. But if all we saw was Gandalf coming back being like, oh my God, do you have the ring? And Frodo being like, yes, now suddenly we've skipped the part where he knows, where we, the audience, are told anything. We are to assume that Frodo's been told. And then Frodo goes on this journey and we have to find it important somehow.
Yeah. I mean, I think I understand what you're saying. It's just like, I don't know if I am feeling like I missed that. Because also the opposite can happen and be true. Like I don't know, I think about like Mistborn, where it's like the whole first book, you don't even know what the real story is. And you don't know what the main character doesn't know what's going on, really.
No, but you do learn, you get context for when you need it.
I think we do in Dune. I mean, like, I guess I almost feel the opposite, where it's just like, I feel like they just like, we get to a point and they're like, and they do the trial in the first Dune with, he puts his hand in the box. It's like, you just wanted to try for the one. Okay, so now we're like looking at a prophecy. Like, I don't know. It's like almost like very convenient and very. I almost wish it was the opposite. I almost wish we were like learning things more.
Yeah.
It's just I'm missing like living in the moments that like feel difficult and watching whether or not they succeed. It just like became a movie where it's like, okay, this is what it's going to be. And then they set it up, they do it and they succeed and they move on. And I'm like, okay, it's like almost opposite Game of Thrones problem where like the first movie felt a little Game of Thronesy where we're like, oh shoot. Like we're just like, but then it wasn't. Like I was like, okay, we're not just like we set it up and there's all this like, we kill off the entire family. It's like, now you have to make choices. Okay, great. There's like a few different choices. We don't really know what choice is going to make. Obviously, like we can assume because it's like, it's a series and it wouldn't be a series if he made a different choice. But it almost feels like it's like, yeah, he's going to fulfill this prophecy, and then he does, and there's no like conflict in that. Whether or not the prophecy is real, fine. But like everything happens kind of as they like mention in the prophecy. Everything that we've learned about the prophecy just like happens as it is, as it was supposed to. Like his visions are kind of coming into fruition almost exactly.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I don't know, it's too convenient, and they're like jumping from thing to thing, and the moments that we're seeing like expanded aren't moments that feel like the story part.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. The expanded moments are like,
I just don't feel like I'm missing those things that you're saying you're missing.
I didn't miss them. They were I was forced to infer them. I was not told them. Like it's like the reason, like, okay, so because it's like, even in the middle of the movie, like you turn to me and you're like, oh, do you think he's going to be, is this like a one thing? Like sarcastically or something, because it was like, they kept doing that thing where it's like, oh, we're doing this thing because he's the one, right? But they had to do that in the context of the action because they didn't tell us previously what was going on. They had to fill in all the exposition as it was happening because there wasn't even a transition from place to place or from time to time.
Yeah, okay.
We don't get to, like, suddenly there's a change in the scene and I'm like, for example, okay, you're going to go out into this desert. Change. Okay, did it happen or not?
I don't know, right. Yeah.
Okay. And so we would need to see a quote author-owned beat to be like, well, he went and did this thing and we're going to see time go on. And we're going to see it expand and contract. Now we know something has happened, right? And now we can move on to the next thing.
Yeah,
instead of just in the next scene getting a line that's like, oh, you succeeded. Okay, you told me he succeeded. Right.
But I guess like it doesn't feel like it's missing. It feels like it's sloppy.
Yeah, I think I disagree. I think it's just not there.
I guess like in general, I feel like those things exist in the story, not in the movie necessarily.
I mean, they probably exist in the story, I'd imagine.
And that's kind of my overall point is that like, I think the story is a successful story. It's an interesting story. It's a little bit confusing, but the movie doesn't do that justice because we're skipping living in the important moments.
Yeah.
And weirdly, I don't know, like the relationships that develop, they don't spend enough time watching the trials of a relationship for me to like actually believe the relationships.
Even just the joy of a relationship. I mean, the reason that Lord of the Rings works in Fellowship of the Ring is because we get to see like a full hour of them just like being hobbits, being happy, and we get to like people of just like hanging out.
Right.
And here it's just like there was none of that.
Yeah. What do you call it when it's like when we're watching people just like
day in the life?
Yeah, day in the life. Yeah.
Just day in the life. Just what are they like when they're eating? What are they like when they're with family? What are they like when they're at work? It's like a shorthand. You know, it's like
but it's always like these like Zendaya's friend and her are always just like, I don't know if he's gonna do it. They just think he's the one. Yeah, that's ridiculous. Like every time. Like over and over
just
and
a lot
over
of repetition.
Again. So I'm like, I felt like I should care about that character, and that character kind of comes around on her feelings around like Paul like gets on his side, gets her approval eventually, and so like that's like the most interesting character that there's the first character that I'm like, oh, I care that you are now being held hostage.
Yeah,
it was the first time that I was like, I think I care about that character because we saw just a glimmer, not that much.
Yeah.
But like so many of the characters, I'm like, who do we care about?
Yeah.
I mean, like that's the problem with like the Game of Thrones thing where like there's lots of factions. We're switching from here to here to here. Of course, at least in this one, we're just following Paul.
Yeah.
And his mom. But even that, like it's a weird contentious relationship because she's pushing him to do something that he maybe not want to do.
Yeah.
And it just like that. So that relationship is like weird. And I don't know if like, are we fighting for them? And then we have to start caring about the Fremen, but we don't have a lot of time to like really learn and care about the Fremen. And for him to be like it does feel like he's like, I believe in revenge. And it's like, it's unclear if is it a revenge story? Is it like, I now believe I'm the savior of these people? It's like, it's like not making strong choices in these areas.
Right.
Like those are like the pieces where it's like, because I don't know who he cares about other than them like telling us that he likes Zendaya.
Right.
But even that, I'm like,
does he? I don't know.
There's like there is some development in that relationship.
Yeah.
It feels a little bit forced time-wise because like you're trying to pack in so much and you're trying to keep, I like the pace of the movie. I like that it's slow. I do. Like I think it works for the style.
Mm-hmm.
The style works for like the story being told to me. That it like, the problem is like the time doesn't actually pass by that slowly.
Yeah.
Or maybe it does. It's confused right. About the passing of time. Yeah. Like you said, there's a lot of the transitions aren't clear. That is something that is missing that I'm not sure was important, but is time, the passing of time, is that important? It doesn't seem like it is.
Yeah, maybe not.
But like the pacing of it, I don't mind the pacing of what happened.
Yeah.
Weirdly. Like I
don't
feel
think
like
I mind either.
Is fine. It's nice to watch. I don't know. It's pretty.
Yeah. As far as the relationships, I think what it is that every single thing that they talk about is in context of the story we're going to see happen. So it's like from the get-go, can I go to Arrakis? I want to go to Arrakis. No, you're not going to go to Arrakis. I'm not going to let you go to Arrakis, but it's important that we're going to go to Arrakis because it's this thing and you're going to come with us when it's time to go. And you have to, even with the mother at the, I realize now, I said like, oh, what are they like at meal times? What are they like at, with family and at work? And you kind of see him in all those instances. You see him at a meal, literally. It's like the first time we see him, but it's like all in the effort to make him the one, right? Even that interaction is, use your powers on me.
Yeah.
And then there's the conversation when he's working with I don't remember the guy's name.
It's just,
but he's fighting, right? And it's like, because you don't even realize what's going to happen. The great houses are going to eat us alive. Mm-hmm. And then, I want to go ahead of time to Arrakis. No, you can't go ahead of time to, like, all of his relationships are in that context. And there is no, I
guess like,
do you talk about anything else?
Right. Well, and that's kind of what I'm maybe that where I'm feeling like the things are there, the setups and the payoffs exist, but like we're lacking on things to really care about and latch on to because we're just like watching things happen.
Yeah. It takes
like,
more to tell.
Infernal Machine where it's like, we're just watching like this happened and we kind of know that these things are supposed to happen.
Yeah.
And there's not a ton of interesting ways in which there's not a lot of like, and he made it happen because of this surprise. Like there's not a lot of surprises. Very few surprises. And part of that is because they set up everything to have meaning and they weren't like, it's not sloppy in giving us information. It gives us all the information almost too technically.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's that might be true. I think it's that there is even a different, again, with the author-owned beats, they're different. They have a different job. And we as an audience member actually take information differently when it's coming from that context than when it is coming directly from the action. So when you have it's like it takes more to tell a story than just to have a thing happen and another thing happen and another thing happen,
Yes.
even if the order in which you've put those things should theoretically tell the perfect story at the perfect pace. It actually takes more than that.
Yeah.
You
Obviously.
need the relevance. You need to know what we're actually fighting for. What's this kind of the problem that we're trying to solve?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because right now it feels like the problem is his family was murdered and he's maybe gonna be the one. And that's that is so surface level that it doesn't connect to the
Right. What do we
to like the
I guess
grand.
it's like part of my, like in that vein, following Paul. I actually don't know what's important to him.
Yeah. Right.
Like it switches. Is he just, it does feel like he's just kind of like along for the ride. And there's like things like, I care about Zendaya, but when the moment arises,
He doesn't get to prove it. It doesn't even feel like a
like,
sacrifice.
Maybe there's just more setup for the third. I do feel like the third installment.
If there will be one, yeah, sure.
I'm sure there will be.
Yeah.
I'm sure I think it's doing well. Everyone is like, Dune 1 went well, and people are talking more highly about Dune 2.
Yeah.
Which I get. I think it is more, there's more meat to it.
Mm-hmm.
We've learned more actual story things happen.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. It doesn't, nothing feels like, even the problems that arise don't feel like problems.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know exactly what Paul is going for. Like he's like, he has like nothing to live for.
Yeah.
Except for, so he's like, so he's talking about revenge. He's talking about like, now I do care about these people, but why?
Well, there's a good example. I mean, I think they've missed something there in that first film because it seems like the big change that we're supposed to see in that first film, if we're supposed to take it as its own story, is that it's the decision to stay with the Fremen.
I guess I never was under the impression that he was just going to leave.
I was never either, but apparently we're supposed to deduce from the conversation that they have that was the plan the whole time. The plan the whole time was, we got to find a way off this planet so we can go talk to the Emperor and tell him what happened and convince him blah, 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 or talk to somebody about something that the Harkonnens did something. And again, I'm not sure why any of this is relevant. I'm not sure what is dangerous about don't just tell me, show me. Mm-hmm. Right. And then at the end of the film, suddenly he has this, no, we're not going to get off the planet. I'm going to stay here with the Fremen. This is what my father was going for all this time anyway, desert power. But
what
I
does
didn't
that mean?
I didn't get that this whole time we've been trying to get off the planet. I was like, we have? We've been trying to get off the planet? When? I don't even remember that. And to have that be like the big aha resolution climax moment was like, that was weird.
Yeah. I guess like, for me, I don't know, maybe I'm like, the more we talk about it, I'm like, maybe I liked the first one better. There just seemed to be more conflict. And I liked that in the end, he was like, no, it's not about, it was never like that kind of like discovery about his father being like, he wasn't in this for the power ever.
Yeah.
Or for the money, for the riches, for the wealth, for the fame.
Right.
He's not in it for those things. He saw that he could make a difference.
Yeah.
He was actually a good leader. He was meant to be. He was like there to actually work with the Fremen. And yes, he was talking about getting desert power to be able to like have this force, but like not, I don't know, not at the expense of the Fremen. He wasn't looking to like enslave them and use them.
Right.
It seemed like it felt like they were like at first, it was like, ooh, yes, we have a weapon. But like the more we learned about it, it's like, no, he sees a need to empower those people.
Right.
Like the Jason Momoa character, like he becomes friends with the Fremen. Mm-hmm. And that's like, he's like the only other one other than Paul that has ever done that in this world. Like that's, I don't know. There was interesting, I don't know, now that now that I'm talking about it. So like the first one.
Let's get to the interesting stuff that we liked about it in a moment. I want to check in with Colton now that we've shat all over his movie.
Yeah.
What say you, Colton?
Defend the movie.
After we've just said all of that, what are you feeling?
I do agree with you on the part where he goes out, where then they're like, oh, go out and prove yourself. You have to go all the way over there and come back.
Yeah.
And then it just cuts to like him and Zendaya like setting up a tent,
dancing,
and I was during that I was like, okay, is everyone going on this trip with him, or did the trip happen and now they're like doing more training?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, like we'll just move on from that, and I'm just going to assume that he did his job because they still like him.
Yeah.
You guys did a lot in the 40 minutes we did talk, so you might have to set me up with some questions.
Okay, so who do you like the best in this film series?
I think I like Stilgar.
Okay.
Yes, yeah. I think I do too.
I think he's my favorite character.
That's the Javier Bardem character, the leader of the Fremen. Yeah. I agree.
He's actually excellent.
He's excellent, and I didn't recognize him at first. That was like it was a big surprise when I was like, he sounds kind of like Javier Bardem, and then it was him.
And he's doing excellent.
And he's very funny. He's very good. I like him a lot.
Yeah, I think he had like the best character arc throughout the first two movies.
Agreed. Yeah.
Like his character definitely shifted from like no outsiders allowed to just fully embracing Paul almost as like his father figure. Towards like the climax of the movie, it almost seemed like he was Paul's dad, and like he replaced his father as like the father figure role in his life.
Yeah. I will say, that makes sense. It's like that is a relationship because that is a character that I care about for sure because of the way I think they set that up well, and that we see him have the moment with the father in the first movie, and it wasn't like completely negative. And then in the second movie, go out of his way to support Paul, but not like baby him. I don't know. It's interesting.
Do we know whether or not the story lines up with the end of the book?
I do not know if it lines up with the end of the book, but there are multiple books in the series, and I think there is a confirmed third film in like really pre-production.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm curious if that is the end of book one.
At the end of two or end of one?
End of two.
How many books are there?
I don't know. I think a lot.
There's 3 written by the original author, and then like his son
wrote a
bunch
more.
Okay.
So I think
that's right.
Dune 1 and 2, the movies, I think that's the first
just
book.
the first book.
But I've been told that apparently Dune 2 leaves out like a lot of stuff from the book.
Okay.
I can't confirm because I haven't read it yet.
Right. Yeah. Which may appear in book or movie 3.
Maybe, but a lot of things have passed.
Yeah.
Like a lot of times and trials and things.
Passed.
It's very Harry Potter 4.
Yeah.
Like you can't go back and add those things back in.
Right. Of course. I just wonder if like some of like the Great House stuff might make an appearance in book 3 or in movie 3 that's stuff that we might have.
I don't mind.
Not had.
Mind. There was so many instances in this movie where I'm like, we're just like hanging out with the Harkonnens for so long. Do I even remember what's happening with Paul?
Yeah, it's not that I wanted to see more about the great houses. I wanted to know another instance of like, why is this relevant? I wanted to know what is the nature of these relationships, right? Like, why is the Emperor able to get rid of one of the houses from...
okay, so I will say, you missed the first speech of the movie.
Oh, I did. You're right. Okay.
So Florence Pugh has like a speech about a lot of it.
Nice. What did she say?
And I don't remember, but she sets up a lot of like the world.
Okay.
The world is like this. She does do a little bit of that narrator thing at the beginning where she's like, the Emperor is like this, like, and kind of like talks from that perspective. Mm-hmm. So there is stuff set up that you missed because you were in the bathroom.
I was in the bathroom because the previews were the longest previews
so
ever.
Was that, do you notice like, it was so, I was like 20, like it was an hour. It was like an hour long.
Yeah, we were sitting there and like preview after preview started. And we were just like, wait, this is like insane. It was getting wild at
I was
one
like,
point.
the movie's already so long.
Yeah.
And I was like, I have to pee again.
He did. I mean,
I just went to the bathroom. I have to go to the bathroom again
all the time. And
I was like, I guess I'll go try now that Nicole Kidman's talking. And then it was like, the short version. Like they have a different version now of Nicole Kidman. And I was like, God damn it! It wasn't even like the full long one. I thought I'd have enough time.
You did miss some of that speech, and I
do
think there were things set up in there. Maybe not like I'm not saying it would.
But it might solve some of that. I mean, I actually found that really interesting because I think that would, speaking of things that I really like, is kind of the introduction of this princess character. It's like...
Yeah, no, all of a sudden it's like medieval. I don't know. There's so many things.
There's something
there's a lot of vibes happening at the same time. We're getting Star Wars vibes. We're getting Lord of the Rings vibes.
Space
we're
opera.
Getting space... But it feels
space,
like
but fantasy.
Space fantasy,
yeah.
like that.
I like when I'm imagining like who is telling this story, and I feel like it's like the princess.
Maybe it's the daughter.
We'll talk about that. But it's like I feel like it's like the princess is telling the story. It's like
she's
even the way
she's
the narrator of that movie, and I feel like it's like she's the narrator of like both. Where she's like,
that's cool.
I'm actually like I like this idea that she's like as part of like training the next Bene Gesserit person. She's like, I have this tale about power and like taking up the mantle of a messiah and like how these machinations work and what when to kind of surrender your agency to fate and when to kind of exert your agency over it. And like that conflict is I think so interesting. That's like one of the interesting things about it. Like you said, it's like, is he the Messiah? Does he just believe he is? When did he start to believe he was? And it's such an interesting, I think that is a common thing we see across history where it's like someone, even like just like that someone taking up the position of like a prophet, a false prophet, or like a guru ends up kind of believing the stuff that ends up being said about them.
Right.
Like you end up just believing it too, even if you like at first
it's
didn't.
It's a very classic trope. It's like,
yeah,
I'm not like, it's just stories. It's lining up like, sure, I'll use it. But then it's like, no, it's me. I believe it now. And,
Or it's like actually better if I did, even if I maybe don't.
And it's
what's the difference at this point?
It becomes not important at that point.
Yeah.
It's like, now I can use this power to like actually affect this change. And I do actually believe that thing that it said I'm going to do.
I want that. So
I want that. Let's go for it.
Right.
I mean, I think it's like speaks to human nature that like people want to be important. They want to do big, important things. And I think people generally, if they're told enough times that they're special, they're going to take it up.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me. It was a little like, again, I kept looking for a surprise.
Yeah.
that's like the big thing I think Dune 2 was missing for me. At least Dune 1, there was a lot of like, there was a couple like annoying surprises, but like interesting surprises.
Yeah.
Like the traitor of the family.
Oh,
and
yeah.
how he like was a traitor, but also helpful.
Yeah.
And like was able to, gave him the little
Give
tooth.
him the tooth with the poison, and
was able to like take out a whole room of people, but not actually take out the
Stellan Skarsgård
leader.
character, Vladimir Harkonnen, whatever his name is. I think the only surprise in the second one that I can think
there was
of,
like surprises, but I'm like, do I even care about that? Like, why do I care about these surprises?
Right.
It's like when he met the daughter. The daughter is like
you mean like
his
sister who's like still in the womb, but he like, and it's like a weird Anya Taylor-Joy cameo.
Weird. Why?
She has one line. I wonder how much she got paid for that.
I'm sure she'll be in the third movie. I'm sure she was
Probably,
contracted for.
I'm sure she's just coming back to be that character. But
which is weird because I'm like, is she gonna be an infant? Are they gonna Twilight that?
Oh
Just like
God!
project her face weirdly on the baby.
No, Twilight projected baby. No,
Better than Puppet Baby.
Oh, Puppet Baby. Oh my God, so horrible. Look it up. You look it up, Twilight Baby. I didn't know about it until, I mean, I'm way late to the party, but it's wild.
We just learned about it like last month. It's wild.
So,
but yes, I don't know it. But like learning that he is the Harkonnen's son.
Right. The Harkonnens,
That is
the Harkonnen or grandson, right? His mother is Vladimir
it's the
Harkonnen's
grandson,
daughter. That was a surprise. I was going to say, it's like, that was a surprise. I don't know why that matters. I'm that's
not sure
the, again,
did. I don't know
author context, right? It's like, that's what I'm talking about. It's like, why do I care about that? I don't even know why that matters. And there's like an incomplete thought that happens where he's like, oh, so that's how we survive this.
Yes, that's
and
what I was
like,
just about to say. I'm like, I don't
how
understand.
do we, what do you mean?
Is it
Colton,
because
what did he mean?
What do you think?
about what?
Colton, what did he mean?
That he's Harkonnen and that's their way through.
Oh, so that's our way through. I'm a Harkonnen.
Like,
that's our
the
way
answer
through.
To like, he's like, there's so many ways in which we lose this battle, except for this one, and it's because I'm a Harkonnen. And I'm like, I'm not really sure.
I'm not sure what that means.
I guess I don't really either. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
because the only thing I can think of, another time where I'm like being forced to make inferences, that perhaps after he offs the rest of the Harkonnens, he's now the head of House Harkonnen also.
Right. And I do.
He's House Atreides and House Harkonnen, right? That's probably
was that they were saying, but
I don't know. I wish they would have told me somehow.
Yeah. Well, I wish it was like, I mean, like if he was using that, then he should have used it. He should have said, I am now the leader of the Harkonnen,
right,
by birthright,
right.
Like, or when he's like, he mentions it to what's his face, the nephew.
Yeah, briefly, he's like, cousin
Austin Butler character.
I don't remember what his name is.
The nephew,
creepy guy.
Yeah, creepy guy.
Yeah, creepy guy with no
eyebrows.
But very full lips. Sorry, I'm making noises. Very full lips. Very full lips, no eyebrows.
Yes. Yes, because they set it up that like he could be the next person in line for the throne.
Mm-hmm. And that was also kind of unclear. And maybe that is clarified by the little speech by Florence Pugh at the beginning. But it's just like, I was like, why did the Emperor need to off him?
Off who?
The Atreides. He was afraid of the Atreides. But why? And apparently it was like a Bene Gesserit thing that maybe they were like breeding people to have powers. Do you know?
I think they did mention that the Atreides family was starting to get kind of distant from the Empire, and they were kind of like scared that they were going to go I don't know the word to use, but they were kind of starting to like see through the lies and stuff, I think. And they were scared that they were going to go rogue, I guess, and try to do things on their own. And I think that's why they eliminated them. But
yeah, they did like, and Florence Pugh does like mention that like, they're like, the Emperor tries to do his best, but he is kind of a jealous man. And he like, they set him up to be kind of like imperfect and like going on like whims and like, I don't like them, so let's just get rid of it. You know, like they set him up as like not a, like he probably made a mistake doing this.
Yeah.
Like, it was probably like the wrong thing to do because of like pride or hubris or whatever. That does feel like that was like kind of set up.
Sure.
But not, I don't think it's that important, in fact.
Okay.
Where I'm just like, yeah, they didn't want them, and it's like weird politics, and I got so sick of just like the political back and forth in Game of Thrones that I'm like, I don't care about any of these factions. Who am I supposed to care about?
Yeah.
Not what's his face who ended up the king.
No,
so
Bran.
So stupid. I hate that show.
Okay.
The first couple seasons were good, but like I didn't like. I talk about Game of Thrones is going to be my point of reference for a lot of things I don't like.
Yes.
Especially in these epics, because like epics for me are hard.
They are. They're very hard.
So if it's not done well, I'm just like, I'm out then. I'm out. Like I'm already giving you a lot of time and energy to try to follow what's happening. It has to be good.
Yeah.
It has to be interesting. Like at least this one, it's like they pare it down enough that I'm like, okay, this is digestible. Like even more than like Star Wars. There's a lot going on in Star Wars.
Yeah.
There's a lot of factions, a lot of things going on, but Star Wars like does a good job that we're like, we care about the characters in your face.
Yeah.
We always do.
Yeah.
And so because we're here, we're good. Instead, like Star Wars, I think it's like very interesting. They keep me there because I'm like, yeah, if I don't remember all the factions or what I don't remember the lore. I'm not that big of a fan, but I'm generally really interested in watching those movies because like they really care about the characters and we follow like their actual wants and needs that just happen to line up with saving the universe. You know what I mean? Like that.
Right,
and that is something that I'm like, I'm not really sure. They didn't set up Paul as a character that I'm like, I really know you. I know what you want.
Yeah.
He just feels like a symptom of fate. Like he
feels a little bit like a blank canvas a
little bit like, I don't know what my purpose is in life.
Yeah.
It's just like not that interesting.
Yeah. I agree.
Like I wish there was more conflict. Like we saw the conflict between like choosing the relationship between and choosing the Messiah route.
Yeah.
Because they kept like you had mentioned, not during the podcast yet, but a moment that is, I think it was in the first movie that kind of like made the first movie a little confusing.
Oh yeah, he starts like freaking out in the tent when he like takes the he's like in the tent with his mom after
with the spice
escaping, and there's like spice, and he starts having this freak out where he's like, oh my god, there's got to be this great big
holy war.
There's got to be a holy war. If I go and he has this whole freak out that then totally is undermines the discovery later where he's like, no, I'm gonna stay.
Yeah.
And then he immediately goes back to
I wish like
freaking out about the holy war again.
Yeah, he's freaking out I wish we could even like, because from that moment until Zendaya convinces him to go to the south, like he's adamant that he's not doing it, and there's no reason why he would.
Right.
And I wish that we could see more conflict within him.
Yeah.
About whether or not to go to the south.
Right.
I mean, it's interesting that Zendaya, the character that is like going to be really affected by it, is the one who convinces him to go. I think that is like a very smart choice, because like she's the only one that would have been able to, based on the relationships being made. Obviously his mom is not going to be able to. He's fearful that his mom is going to like that she is instrumental in the holy war happening.
Yeah.
He's a little bit afraid of what she's going to do. But getting Zendaya's like support makes sense as a way that would transition it. But I wish there was like more spots along the way. Even then, he's like, if it was like, oh, I got this power and it was exciting and I was like helping it, but then all these people died and I'm like really conflicted. I wish it was like a conflicting feeling.
Yeah. We need to see that somehow.
Yes. I don't see the benefit of that. And if he's not going to do that, why is he doing the rest of it?
Yeah.
Why is he going through these trials and doing that? Like, if he doesn't want to do that part, you know what I mean? Like, unless it's like really clear that he's like, because they kind of allude to it in the first one where he's like, I saw it and it felt like if I was there, it would have been different. So the belief that like he can see the thing and make a different choice, it's there, but I wish that was more clear that that's what he was doing.
Yeah.
He's like, no, I think I can do it this way. I have a solution. That is important, but I need to do it. I mean, like they do a little bit where he's like, yeah, you guys go and I'll stay.
Yeah.
But I'm like, but what is that going to do?
But then that doesn't
What are you
pan out
gonna
anyway.
do?
He
You're
has
just
to go
going to
anyway.
like hang out by yourself and do what? Like watch the empty caves? Like what is it? Why are you even staying?
Yeah.
You're just going to like try to keep taking down the spice production yourself? Like, is that, I mean, like if he was so caught up in like, I just need them to leave the planet and I'm just like draining them their resources until they leave the planet. Like that's my goal.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care about this Messiah stuff.
Right.
Like I'll use it to get people on my side, but like I only care about this. But even then, I guess like to your point, like it took me a while to be like, oh, they've just been like actually taking down this. They've just been doing that. Like that's what their goal is. Their continual goal is.
Yeah.
Like that's what they're doing. I didn't realize like that was happening along with, because it felt like a movie about the trials.
Right.
But the trials didn't line up with him taking down the spice. I guess that's where I'm seeing the disconnect. Like if in taking down he's like focused on taking down the spice.
In order
production.
to take down the spice production, I need to know how to ride one of these worms.
Or I'm
Turns
doing
out
it and
riding
all
one of these
sudden-
worms is a thing of the prophecy.
Right.
It's like if it actually lined up like that.
But he specifically trained to do it, and then he just did it as he was trained, and then he just like proved that he could ride a worm. And I'm like, okay, so what?
Yeah.
It's like weird because like the worms are the dragons of this world.
Yeah.
They're the overly powerful
Right.
tool that the hero has to learn how to control. Like,
Right.
it's a dragon.
Yeah.
They're just
Sure.
dragons.
Yeah.
They watch over the spice. They're they're
dragons. Sure.
they're dragons. I wish they were dragons. I wish they were treated with the same kind of reverence.
Yes. Sure. And they're supposed to be, right? They're supposed to be kind of like gods, and they.
No, but I mean within the storytelling. I wish they were treated as the biggest trial.
Right. Yeah.
He doesn't have any problem doing it.
No.
Like, yes, it
He
looks
succeeded.
hard,
Sure.
but it's going to be hard.
But he did it. He didn't.
But he did
He has no failures.
Where are the failures?
Yeah.
I don't need to see failure after failure after failure after failure, but I don't also need to see win after win after win after win.
Right.
Both of those are exhausting to me.
Right. They are. Yeah.
Like Game of Thrones, I felt like I'm like,
That was just
okay,
a
I'm just
series of
expecting
failures.
people to fail.
Yeah.
I'm expecting this to fail over and over and over again.
And this was
I'm bored.
This was
bored
the
by
opposite.
it.
It was just wins the whole way.
Just
I
wins
mean,
after wins
there's
after
no
wins.
failure. Feels like until the Harkonnens come back and blow up the siege.
a minor failure.
Right.
They were able to.
Because like immediately after that,
They capture one person.
yeah, no one was even there. You know.
Yeah, and that's one of the many sieges along the planet.
Right.
Okay, yeah, they got one, but we have a full. Yes, there was we feel bad. Like it's a good picture of like the sanctity is being destroyed.
Right. Because that
like,
big
the pool, I think
of
that's the
dead body water.
body juice.
Yeah. Dead body juice.
That's interesting. I think that I like the kind of like religion around water. There's something very interesting about
that's
that.
really interesting, and just all of the, albeit in the end inconsistent, but like,
Yeah.
but the like the reverence towards the water. It's like, don't cry, don't give up your water for anybody. Mm-hmm. Don't spit, or if you do, it's like, I'm like, thank you for your water. You know, the water is that sacred. It's like, they died. We're just going to suck the water up out of every single person we can.
Again, I can see why this world and this story even is appealing.
Yeah.
The world is very interesting.
Yeah.
The factions are, I mean, even the way they did it in the movie, like they kept it pretty limited.
Yeah.
Harkonnens are very archetypal.
Oh yeah.
Bene Gesserit, pretty archetypal.
Pretty archetypal. Yeah.
And Fremen, pretty archetypal. They're like really keeping those clear.
Yeah.
Great. The mythology, some interesting things.
Yeah.
It gets complicated because you're like, I'm not sure what's magic, what's science, what's religion.
Yeah. Well, it's because we've got like that, I'm going to yell at you and you're going to do things power.
Which is like
the
not
voice
used
power.
as often as I think it should be.
For real. I was like, you can just like tell people to do things. You should probably be doing that.
Yeah. Both him and his mother.
Yeah.
Like why? And she can't be the only one who does that.
No.
There's other Bene Gesserit that live on the planet.
Right.
There's missionaries. Like, that's the other thing is like, they kept being like, well, that half of the planet's uninhabitable. I'm like, you don't believe that.
Yeah.
There's no way. Bene Gesserit, no.
Yeah.
There's
Unless they're
Bene
like
Gesserit that are part
good at
of
keeping
the
secrets.
Harkonnens.
Right.
They're
Yeah.
Bene Gesserit that work for the... That faction is the most confusing, I would say, because I'm not really sure what their goal is. Because it doesn't line up with the mother's goal.
No.
And I'm like, I don't know why you are resisting.
Well,
Paul.
they went through like all of this work to like breed this like this person with ultimate power, right? Like that they've been carefully combining bloodlines to like find this
But only
person.
women. It's supposed to be only women.
Right. Yeah.
You're supposed to just have women.
Yeah.
So it's confusing to me. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't
know. It's weird.
I like, but the prophecy is their prophecy. Is a Bene Gesserit prophecy.
Right.
That has been, it's unclear if it's like we made it up and are telling them, but then the mother should have known that.
Right.
But like, it would, like, I guess I assumed that it was like the head Bene Gesserit lady. Who's that actress? Like,
I don't know. I don't remember.
Freaking good.
I was just talking to my dad about her, and he knows who it is, and I don't remember what her name is, but she's awesome.
She's awesome. She's so good.
She's my favorite, Colton. She's my favorite character.
She's good.
Is the matriarch of the Bene Gesserit. She's like freaking rad.
I just don't know what she actually cares about and what she's actually fighting for.
I'm not sure either.
And I don't think it's supposed to be clear. We're supposed to like not really be sure what their deal is.
Yeah.
But why does the mom care so much about the prophecy? And is it a prophecy that like she just doesn't believe that this is the... They talk about it a little bit like, do you not think that he is?
Yeah.
Could he not be?
Right.
Tell me that he's not.
Right.
They do a little bit, but it's not like there isn't like, well, it's dangerous now because like they're playing with this prophecy and this power is now in his hands. And like with, you know, like the Wheel of Time thing, if it was like a Wheel of Time thing, like, yeah, the one true dragon, is that one?
Yeah, the dragon. The Dragon Reborn.
The Dragon Reborn. Like that's the only male that's allowed to have this power.
Yeah.
Because every other male is going to go crazy and create a lot of problems. If that was very clear that that's the issue, and that's why the Bene Gesserit need to be like, no, you can't. No.
Yeah. Right.
We have to be sure. And if we're able to like wipe him out, then we know that he's not. So we should probably try.
Yeah.
You know, like that's
Yeah. Yeah. Oh boy.
But that is, they're unclear, and I don't understand their motivation.
Yeah. Other than the machinations of politics, I guess. But I don't know.
Why would they care about the politics though?
I don't know.
And why would they want the Atreides to be killed off? Like, I don't understand any of it.
But then they didn't, because she had them spared.
Yeah, she was like, her and the son need to be spared. That made me think that like maybe she does
believe. Or maybe that is. Maybe it's just like, I can't without a doubt say no.
Right.
But I don't know.
But then if that's the case, then why not test it?
Yeah.
Yeah, kill him. You're not allowed to kill the mother because that's against our practices.
Right.
We don't do that. We don't kill the other Bene Gesserit.
Right.
You're not allowed to.
Right.
But the son, go for it.
Right. Yeah, I don't know.
But maybe, again, I don't know if this is all like part of a bigger plan. I'm like interested. It would be interesting if it was like, that's exactly what I wanted the whole time, even though like.
Yeah, and it seems to be kind of like, that felt like that's where they were going, where it's like, this was all just like set in motion by the Bene Gesserit. But then at the end there, she's been like usurped by his mom.
Kind of, yeah, I'm confused.
Now she's the leader of the Bene Gesserit, it seems.
Unclear. What happened? I don't even remember.
Because it's like the emperor like kisses his hand.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're like, oh, the mother, whatever, Reverend Mother person. And it's like first going to be her, but then it's like, turns out it's like, it's actually his mom. Like it was all a total just like handover of power. She's like, oh, you chose the wrong side. And then something about like,
we don't choose sides.
There aren't any sides.
There was never sides.
Yeah, there were never any sides. Like, that's
Which
weird.
is interesting. I mean, I do think that's interesting.
It's when it makes me wonder
because they're like, we're outside of, and that the mom is getting a little obsessed with
sides.
That.
Yeah.
We're seeing that, like, I mean, it's like setting up very clearly that she's like not gonna be right in the end. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's what I'm like getting strong feelings like, yeah, the mom's she's gonna do something wrong. She's gonna push something too far. She's gonna,
it's not gonna go well.
It's not, her idea is not completely correct. She's lost something and I'm not sure what it is. And
yeah, she's like lost her mind after drinking that poison, and so is he now. I don't know. I guess I'm like curious. I'm curious to see what's next. It's gonna be hard for me to like commit to another bajillion year long movie. They're so long. Yeah.
But honestly, like as far as like a longer form movie, the actual watching of it, even in the longer boring parts, I was not that turned off by it. I will say.
No, I don't think I was either. As much as I didn't like it, I just found myself a lot of the time just saying, what?
Yeah. 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 But not like confusing what it was like
a tired what? Like,
yeah.
what?
I mean, I don't feel like the thing is like, it wasn't that confusing to me. Like you said, there was a lot of inferences, but I'm pretty sure we're just correct.
Yeah.
Like, and why not? Why is that? I guess my question about all of that is like, there are movies where that's very powerful, where they're not telling us directly. We're able to infer this information and the story goes by without having to slap us in the face with it. Mm-hmm. Like, why is this one not as successful? Because like some of those things, I'm glad they're not like telling us every single thing.
No, I think you're right. There's great. I usually value being told a little bit less.
Yes.
And I think maybe there's an imbalance of like what we're expected to infer and what we're being told. There's also there's a way to be able to like tell what is important through inference, but it's not immediate. So it's like, you know what's at stake because of all of the tragedies and things that have come before this moment. And I think we miss a lot of those things in this story. So I think overall it's just like what we're expected to infer is maybe the issue. So it's like inferring things about just kind of like the nature of the world, or like what the facts are of like, world building, things like that. Mm-hmm. Those are things that we can learn as we go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What we care about, we can learn as we go too, but at specific points in the story. And we do have to know that. Like you said, it's like, what does Paul want?
I don't know.
We don't know. And we have to learn that not at the end. We have to learn that early.
No, because the end is a choice, not...
Right. We don't have to know because he told us outright. We have to know because of all of the collection of, things that he talks about with the people close to him that convey to us the life that he's living. Mm-hmm. And they were not, in my estimation, successful in doing that. So we don't know what he wants.
No, I think I don't know. Maybe it is just part of it is like that it's such a cliche trope, this like hero taking up the prophecy mantle. It is so cliche, and maybe like it connects to like my wanting more of a surprise. It's that like, because I just think I know that it's like, well, he wants to be the hero. He wants to save the day. It feels like very hollow cliche.
It's a little too in line with the story. Like the one wants to, like Harry Potter doesn't want to be the one. That's not what he wants. Frodo doesn't want to be the hero.
No, we see so much of their lives outside of like the quest.
Right. And the thing that they're trying to achieve, or they go on the quest because they have a different want. Yeah. They have and the thing that they need is going to be the thing that they learned on the quest, right? It's like, oh shit, I needed this the whole time.
Right. Well, it's like, and it's okay, like we see in Lord of the Rings, it's okay that the character's thrust into this thing.
Of course, yeah.
And for it to like, but we need to see him fighting for something else along the way then.
Right. Yeah.
Not just survival, not just like to follow this thing, not just revenge even.
Yeah.
Like I feel like that's kind of a weak starting point maybe. Maybe that's like,
or it's maybe again, it's like the same with the relationships where it's like the thing he wants is to go to that planet and hang out with the Fremen, which he ends up like, it's like the thing that he wanted was the thing that he was supposed to do anyway, I guess.
I guess like I guess the part like my thing is like maybe it's just kind of like it's there, it's shallow, we are inferring it, and it's just like not that interesting because it's not that different, it's not that new, and that's why like most people are fine with it.
Yeah, maybe
because it's like it's not that it's unclear necessarily, it's that it's just like surface level almost. It's not just surface level, but it's like it's.
Yeah, and maybe
cliche.
That's what I mean by like it doesn't really connect to kind of a higher order of thought. It doesn't connect to kind of like a big picture. Oh, there's a big bug in that light. Weird.
Fun.
But
I see it.
It doesn't connect to kind of like this universal need, want, object of desire. It's like I really want to fulfill my potential kind of thing. I never get the sense that we're actually like looking toward that. Mm-hmm. Like even if you'd added something just spitballing here, feels like I really want to be an artist, Mm-hmm. And he's like goes to, what's the planet called again? Arrakis. He goes to Arrakis because he's gonna like go draw stuff, and he gets wrapped up in this.
Sure.
In this thing where it's the thing he wants is something else, and then he's like, I actually thought I wanted this. It turns out I actually need to go on this journey to learn that like there's something underneath that, right?
Well, and again, like yes, that could.
I already like him more.
Sure.
I already like him more.
Because I think part of the problem for me too, on top of it, is like, we're seeing the normal, like, the prince not wanting to take over for his dad. Very cliche. Like over and over and over again. We see like I'm young, I don't want to lead, and we talk about it in the first. So like leaders aren't. It's not that you want to lead; it's that you are called and you answer.
Yeah,
that's great. I can stomach that, especially when they get there and they realize how important it is, or they realize they care about this. There is just an element of like white savior that comes in.
Oh, sure.
That I'm like, this isn't his planet.
And
why?
He does keep trying to like do that. He's like, I shouldn't be leading them. The Harkonnen or the Fremen should be leading the Fremen. It shouldn't be me. It shldn't be me. And then it kind of says, it's just like, is this a tragedy?
Maybe.
Like, are we meant to take this as like a tragic end where he's actually like kind of gone back on his
Morals?
Values, perhaps? What do you think, Colton? Is this a tragedy?
I don't know if it's a tragedy, but I don't know if I'm on a different page as you guys with what you were discussing, but
tell us, what page are you? I'm curious. Yeah.
So like from the first film, it obviously seemed like he didn't want to be the leader of whatever that planet was, or whatever that
Arrakis,
was.
sure.
And like he was always studying like the film and like the books and stuff of the Fremen people. And I'm starting to think that maybe once he got there, and it seemed like his like it seemed like while he was like comfortable and being the prince and stuff, he really wanted to be part of the Fremen people. And once he got there, he realized that the only way he'd be accepted would be if he was like the Messiah, and that he had to put on the whole front so that he could live out what he wanted to do, which was just be part of the Fremen people. But he had to
do it that way.
Yeah, the only way he would be accepted by them would be if some of them started to believe that he was the Messiah.
That's interesting, and that would track for sure. Where it's like if he, that would be something. He's like, I'm actually really interested in this indigenous population, like latching even more onto like as an allegory to white saviorism or like American imperialism, where he's like, oh, look at the the noble savage. I'm so interested in them. I'm gonna go live with them like they do. And then when he gets there, he's like, on their page, and he gets accepted by them. And then eventually he's like, well, but I've got this other thing that I need to do.
Right.
I actually do want revenge, and I want to use this resource to get it. I'm going to need to be the one to make that happen.
Yeah. I'm not seeing, I didn't see in the movie, at least like where, like, I get that he's like interested in the culture, but like the jump to being like, I must be Fremen now.
No,
it
doesn't feel like it's there.
Feels like a large leap.
Yes. And I guess maybe that's like, that could have been something to emphasize. Maybe that's what it is like in the book. I'm not sure.
Like, and I'm wondering, I mean, like, again, there's something really interesting with the father and their like potential relationship with the Fremen then.
Yeah.
Because like, if that was kind of expanded a little bit more, where he's like, oh, these are people, and if I follow what my dad is actually doing, like, we can empower them.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I care more about empowering than being in power.
Right.
And that's kind of like what he gets to. He's like, I'm not, like, he goes back to like, I shouldn't be leading these people.
Right.
I'm not looking to lead you. I'm looking to, like, I know about them.
Sure.
I like finding the value in the, like,
your expertise here and my expertise there. Well, and that's, I mean, to that point, I've just lost my train of thought.
It's like the intersection between leading versus empowering versus like and how revenge plays with that.
Oh, right. That's the point I was going to say too, where it's like how revenge plays, but also once he takes the worm poison, he's like convinced he's the one. You know, it's like it's falling into the Messiah complex is the kind of the downfall. It's like the point in which he stops.
There's not enough of
putting the Fremen first.
I want to see some like really strong. I want to see a couple moments where he's like going against the prophecy.
Yeah.
Like where he actually makes the choice and what happens then.
Yeah.
Because like for now it's like, well, you followed it and it happened. So what's the difference between like there's no.
I don't even know if it's real or not.
Is there a choice? Is it just like, again, Infernal Machine? Is it just like this happens one after the next and next?
Yeah.
I want to see the choices and like, oh, my vision showed me this, but I'm going to like, I don't want to do that. And so I make a different choice and it leads to other things that go bad. You know, it's like making a choice based on the information you have and either it leading to a better outcome or leading to a worse outcome. Like I want to see what happens.
Yeah.
Like, does he have agency on the world is a big question that I have. Or is he just a
pawn getting, or a ball,
just
ping pong?
He's just the vessel for this grand design.
Yeah.
And that is not super interesting to me. I want to see what we're talking about, what he cares about, what he goes for, whether or not he's able to like make a difference.
I mean, even if he's a tool of fate, I still want to see what he cares about.
Of course. Well, that has been a whole thing. Like, like people have been talking about humans being pawns of fate. Like that is a big piece of storytelling. Of
course.
But we have to see the struggle. We have to see like
that's the tragedy. It's like, oh my God, I care about this thing. Life. Right. I care about this thing so deeply and fate has conspired against me.
Yeah.
That's why that matters. If the thing you want is exactly the thing that you need, is exactly the thing that you end up getting.
There's like something like interesting about like realizing that this thing that you've been avoiding is the thing that you like. That's very common too. Like, oh, I've been avoiding it, but that's actually the thing that I wanted all along.
Right.
That, that's very common, but it's not set up very well.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think maybe,
I want to quickly discuss in that vein, there is a lot of parallels. I think part of the reason why it's popular, I want to talk about this, is that there are things that feel relevant today, even though the original story is from the 60s.
Yeah.
And there's things that were relevant in the 60s that are now, we feel, it feels cyclical. We're feeling a lot of things being brought up, like things like racial tension. That's like brought up. Something now that's like, that again in the 60s and now we're looking at technology. That's a big one where it's something very interesting about the movie that I thought was like very successful is the use of technology.
Yeah.
There is advanced technology, but not computers.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Not a computer in sight.
No computers. And I saw a little clip that was like, it's like, oh, part of the lore is that this world is like a post-AI world.
Oh.
That there were computers and AI kind of like took over. And so now they've like condemned it across the universe.
All right.
They can have technology, but not intelligent technology.
Interesting. Okay.
So that's like, I saw a quick clip on that. I'm not sure I don't know personally, like that's, who knows? But like, so it's like, we're looking at, it's like very relevant. That, like people are very tuned into technology and artificial intelligence and things like that right now. We're worried about them. We're worried what that will lead to.
Yeah.
And to
Here's
have
an
a
example.
movie, we're seeing a lot of movies leaning into stories where we don't have to worry about computers or phones.
Yeah.
Because like computers and phones are like story killers.
Right.
Weirdly. They're like, unless they're used really well, and that's tricky.
And it's hard. Yeah.
It's really hard. There's like so many things that can easily be
circumvented or avoided if you just answer the phone.
Yeah. So it's like, I mean, it's interesting that we're leaning on this like these stories now that are less about technology. We are really leaning away from technology being used in films. It's so weird. Like they're setting it in different time periods, different worlds, but we don't like it.
Yeah, we don't want it.
I think we're leaning away from contemporarily set stories because
it's too hard.
It's hard.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think it also lines up today with it's the resource war idea, but just this like single most important resource in the universe. It just makes me think of like, I mean, any resource really, like oil, but I was just thinking about like
oil,
lithium.
I mean, obviously like oil is like
lithium being kind of the thing that we need to like power everything now.
Oh, lithium, sure.
And it's finite. I'm curious about that because it's like, it just seems like the spice was just like infinite. It just was not.
But spice is important for technology and for everyday function, but also religiously for,
right.
It's like all the,
it's a drug.
It's not a bad comparison where it's like not just like you don't just need it to like get to. It's not just like oil,
right?
It's also something that is like
it's other things too.
Other things that like that enhance our lives beyond just like
right
the making it functional.
Yeah,
but also another thing is like the fear of hyper making people extreme, like like pushing people to extreme, like making people extremists and like following like one set of ideas and not like it's like a fear of this extremism,
right?
That we can collect under one idea, but if we're like putting all of our stock into one thing, it's dangerous. There's actually a danger for there to be a single religious figure or for there to be like just like one person looking out for themselves and like making all of everyone around him bow down. Like we're seeing that. I mean, obviously with a lot of things, with the Bene Gesserit, with the Harkonnen, with the Emperor, with Paul himself, with the Mother, like
each of them.
All of them, we're seeing that like power and using power to like control and extremify people. Like there's benefits, but also it's very dangerous. And I'm curious to see as we move forward with the story, what's going to happen with that. Because I think there's got to be a shoe dropping. He's been afraid of the holy war for so long. We got to
see a holy war.
We got to see a holy war.
Yeah.
And we have to see, I think, that destruction happen and what happens then.
Yeah.
Is it because I can't imagine the story is it happens and he's like, but it was worth it. Like that doesn't seem like an intriguing story, at least. Like that's not a satisfying story. And it feels like not what we would want to see today. And I just would doubt. I don't know anything about Dune, so I don't know where it's supposed to go.
Right.
But I have a feeling it's not that.
It's probably not that. Yeah. Oh, interesting. Well, should we get to our ratings?
Sure.
Let's do our ratings.
We've been talking for
a long time. Sorry, y'all.
I just wanted to hit some things that we thought worked and were interesting to really focus on those for a minute because we spent a lot of time on
ripping it apart.
And I don't think we ripped it apart. It's just like some of the issues, like there's a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
With this, they're interesting issues.
Yeah.
That don't apparently, I mean, like for the general public didn't ruin it.
It didn't ruin it. Yeah.
So I wouldn't discount the storytelling.
Sure.
But that's our taste is different. And we can hold different things in storytelling.
Yeah. All right. So the story.
The story. As we're talking about the movie specifically.
Yes.
I'm going to give it a 3.5. Because I think I was having the same problem of feeling like I am having to infer story stuff for important things, and so it fell a little flat for me. But I see the story. I see what it is, and I find interest in the story, and I think it's a good shape. It's a good pace. There's a lot of good things to it. Mm-hmm. But that's where I am.
I'm giving it a 3 for similar reasons. The kind of the skeleton of the story is there, and it's even covered in bones and beautiful skin, and there's no ligaments. And that's the issue that I have with it. It's just like, it's like almost there.
Yeah.
And the world building is really great. I feel like I know a lot about that world.
World building isn't necessarily, it's part of the story.
And yeah. And I think it is. It's not technical.
You don't?
No.
You don't think world building isn't also a technical skill?
No, it is, of course, world. But it's part of the story.
Yeah, they're all intertwined. I don't know. I would yes, but I do think yeah.
Do they tell a good story? They give a 3 story.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Well,
you do 3.5.
I don't agree with 3.
Technical.
I'm gonna say 4 because there are more technical elements that worked, but even just the technical aspect of highlighting important information and giving information that doesn't feel, it either feels missing or too direct. Mm-hmm. And that I think has to do with just if it's there in the story, then it's about the way it's been, I don't know, written, directed, or edited in the end.
Yeah.
And that is a technical problem.
Yeah. I give that a 3 also. I think for similar reasons. I don't love the script. I think some of it's disjointed, especially Paul's dialogue. Sure. Some of the acting is questionable. Also from Timothée Chalamet. A lot of yelling at weird points. And I don't love it. It's like a weird, those weird outbursts that aren't just him using the voice, which are cool outbursts. But there's the moment in particular I'm thinking about him talking with his mom, and they're looking out over the desert, and he's like, blah, 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 blah. I don't even remember what he says, but he yells at her, and I'm like, that was weird, came out of nowhere. I'm not in love with those moments. There's some questionable acting moments.
I would say that's a directing moment more than an acting moment, but
perhaps even so.
Personally, I mean,
still technical.
That's still technical. I'm not saying you're wrong, but.
And then there's.
I don't know. Cinematography is nice. The costume's nice.
It is.
The visuals are
until
great.
Well, maybe I'll save that. But there's some question I have about some of the cinematography.
Okay, sure.
Okay. Rewatch value.
I'm gonna give it a 2. I just don't want to watch again. It's long. I would rather read a synopsis than watch the movie again. I'd be more interested in reading the book than watching the movie again. I don't care to tell people that much to watch. I'm interested in what other people would have to say about it, but I'm not interested in going out of my way to say oh, you should go see it.
Yeah.
Because I want to talk about it.
Yeah.
It's not terrible. I would if people were doing it, I'd be can we watch something else now? Okay. So I'm not going to give it just a 1, but it's not a huge rewatch for me. It's not like Star Wars where I'm there's a lot going on, but it's really interesting.
Yeah.
And
sure.
I like the characters and I enjoy them and I enjoy the story. It's an interesting story to hear once, to watch once.
Sure.
So that's my rewatch value.
Right. I give it a 3 also. 3 is across the board for me.
Yeah.
I don't know if I need anybody else to see it. I like the aesthetic.
You're insane.
I like how it looks. And I think I do want to see it one more time.
God. Okay. Sure. I like how I don't know, but you're like weird about Power of the Dog, and you're like existential dread from mountains and desolate area. But
no, but that's like Oklahoma. That's not Arrakis. Come on, it's not about the desert. It's not about the desolate, like literally the desolate part. There's something else about it. There's Americana is very weird to me. Feels very bleak.
It's just funny to
in a way
me.
that this does not feel bleak.
Sure. I understand. I'm just giving you a hard time, mostly.
Mm-hmm.
I also think you're crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So 3.
3's across the board for me.
Interesting. But even like that technical doesn't bump it?
No.
Because it made the desert, I don't know, magical, and I don't know.
Like it doesn't bump the technical score for me?
Yeah, I'm curious.
No, because I think that the script was bad enough, and some of the acting was bad enough, and some of the cinematographical choices were bad enough.
Curious
that it doesn't
Understood.
The reason it gets 3 is because I like the aesthetic.
Okay. I generally like the acting. There's some really good performances.
There's some really great performances. Yeah. Javier Bardem's excellent. I love the
fight choreography. That's
really good.
If we're talking about
really
technical
good.
elements,
Excellent.
Some of the best I've seen in a minute.
Really fun.
Some really good, simple but effective. Good. It's good. Mm-hmm. Good fight choreo. Great. So let's go on to
superlatives. Oscar worthy moment.
Across both, or do we want to give?
Yeah,
one
I think
to
across
each?
both.
Okay,
across both. I'm happy to consider it one film.
Can I just give it to? I can just give it to the fight choreographer.
Yeah,
because I think that was like a really standout element.
Yeah,
I'm like, wow, you really told stories through the fighting, and you kept it feeling. And you did it with some weird technology, but you didn't overuse the weird technology.
Yeah.
And it kept a knife fight. I thought that was very, very interesting.
Yeah.
A knife fight being close and intimate and scary.
Ooh, it's so scary. Oof.
And so short and sweet because it doesn't take that.
It doesn't take that long for someone to make a mistake. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to go, like, I thought that was strong.
Cool. I'm going to give it to set. I like the design. Yeah, I really like the design. I especially I like the differences between all of the different cultures, where it's like you see what the Fremen are like by where they live. You see what the Harkonnen are like based on where they live, and kind of the big like weird oil pool. It's like so eerie and creepy, and then like even what the Atreides planet and house is like, what the Emperor plays. Just like I really liked the difference. Yeah,
I thought it was interesting. There was one point I noticed that like Arrakis versus like the Harkonnen, like it was like warm neutrals versus cool neutrals, like black and white versus like beige and brown. Like there's something, very easy, but it's like technology versus nature, but still devoid of life.
Yeah.
Where it's like they have both found their way of surviving this kind of lifeless
place. Yeah.
Place, like technology versus like grit almost. Like it's like, there's something interesting just in black and white versus tan.
Yeah.
That they just like, very simple. It's there. They went so far as putting full scenes in black and white in the Harkonnen.
Yeah, I want to talk about that.
Yeah, we're doing.
I know. I want to talk about it later when we talk about crazy things that I don't understand.
Okay, we can. All right. So, Oscar moment. What is your
unearned moment? I think it's Zendaya being the last frame.
Okay.
I am not sure why she is the last thing we see.
Because we're supposed to care about the person, maybe? I don't know. Like that, I think I agree in the like it's trying to like
It's trying to say
it's trying to
something.
get us to feel something.
Yeah, and I feel a little bit manipulated by it. I mean, it fails.
I don't feel manipulated
It
by it.
falls. I
feel
feel like I'm
tempted.
trying to be
Yes.
manipulated.
I know what you mean.
It falls flat for me. It does not hit me quite right. I was like, I thought I was watching Paul's story. Why is Zendaya the last thing I'm seeing? Without making her, like following her in any, it's like,
Yeah,
she's not given equal weight. We're not, I know she's the first person we hear talking in the first film. So there's like a little bit of a bookend there where she's talking, like she's narrating what the Fremen life is like.
She the Saria, and then Florence Pugh's the Zelda.
Yeah, I guess. Saria.
Saria?
I always said Saria. It's a Zelda reference.
Yeah.
Saria song, yeah.
Saria song?
I don't know.
I don't know. Now I don't know. Please tell
Let's
us.
vote. We're going to do a poll.
Are we?
Kaylee, we're going to do a poll.
Oh my gosh.
About is it Saria or Saria in Ocarina of Time? And other Star Wars, or not Star Wars, oh my God. Other Zelda. I am like, I'm
We've been talking about Dune
I'm
for a long
waning.
time.
Jeez. Okay.
So my
Zelda. Yeah.
great Zelda.
Okay.
So
What's your unearned moment?
I think I'm just gonna stick with his freak out at the seeing the visions.
Oh yeah.
I think it's like classic.
It's pretty bad.
It's like really, it's the only part of the first movie that I'm like, I don't really understand why you're doing this.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand why you're freaking out so much. Like, do you actually believe that that's what's going to happen and that's why you're freaking out about it?
Without ever treating it. Like they never actually hold it later. Like we need to actually.
It just doesn't
give
make
that
sense
some-
before or after.
Sure. Right. I just mean like if you really need him to
That's
have
what
a
I mean
freak
by
out.
before or after. Like, they
Oh,
don't, like,
yeah.
deal with it before. There's no setup and there's
Right.
no
Yeah.
payoff. There's
Right.
neither.
There's neither.
In either direction.
Yeah.
So, except for him refusing to go south for so long.
Right.
That's, I mean, we can do that without
Having that.
having that, but, or like having it, it's like interesting to be like, I'm overwhelmed by this thing. I'm going to ignore that thing. Like there's just better ways to do it.
Yeah.
It just feels like this is important.
It's as if it didn't happen.
Like, okay, where did it go then? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's weird. I wish then he could have been like, I just had this crazy dream and it was way overwhelming and I don't believe it. It's
Yeah.
not going to happen. I'm just going to ignore it.
Yeah.
I just won't do that. I won't do that thing and I won't have to worry
Even
about
if
it.
it was just a conversation with his mom about like, well, you have to, follow fate. And he's like, but I don't believe in that.
Yeah. Which
I
he
don't
does.
have to.
I mean,
but he kind of does, right?
Do that.
There's something like, but it's some kind of conversation where he's like, he rejects it or doesn't give it the
Yeah. I bet there are some of these
weight
moments
that
that
it
were like, we
requires.
should have had these moments and that they probably existed. They just don't, they're not, there's something that like
something's not hitting
hitting.
quite.
Yes. I think that's
That's like
a
a little bit why I want to watch them again
that.
too, because I'm like, maybe I just like missed it. I don't know.
Probably.
I think I didn't really have like that high expectations about this film, but it is a film that I should like. Like this is totally up my alley.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. And I think the thing is like, I think for you, generally, when you get something in your head and you can't get past like something that's annoying you or not, that's not hitting right, then you're looking for it the whole time.
Yeah.
And it's like, there are things that can ruin a movie for you.
Oh, that can definitely ruin a movie for me for sure. Yeah.
Where it's like, yeah, if you didn't have that one element, you would be perfectly happy with this movie.
Oh yeah.
So I think maybe a little bit of that's happening.
Yeah. It's
right
important though.
Yes, but there are other movies where we would ignore things like that based on XYZ.
Yeah.
And there's something not
Something's not gelling.
hitting
It's not
for
it's
you
not
specifically.
right.
It's popular enough. I'm not like totally enamored just generally by like these. I'm not like big hero quest. I am interested in hero quest.
It just could be
But it
long.
has to be like
Yeah.
there has to be like other aesthetic things that I'm like really drawn to, and not that like, and honestly like sandworms should do it, but like there's like things that like could be really cool that just like we don't. it's like the Goblet of Fire thing where I'm like, or that one book that you narrated where they're like, they set up.
The Frost Arcana.
Yeah. Very interesting. Like there's going to be trials coming up where they like go through these things.
These like life-size games.
Oh no, somebody had already done it. I'm like,
and then you don't actually get to see the trials. Yeah.
I'm so excited for that. I love those things. Yeah. Like that's like with this where they're like, oh, we're going to see some trials. We're going to see him like struggle at
and
like
then
trying to wrangle a worm.
Yeah.
Like there's like, again, I want to be as afraid of him latching onto that worm as you would watching someone try to ride a dragon.
Yeah.
Because that's the
analog. Yeah.
That's what we're doing there. And I'm annoyed by that. But anyway, so that was unearned.
All right. We did prepare more superlatives today.
We don't know what the order of things
so
this is coming out before the episode where we
Oh, oops. Well, we did, but I'm still saying we prepared superlatives today.
Yeah, good.
Okay, so first was best fight scene.
Yes, best fight scene.
Ooh, I really like the fight scene. Jason Momoa.
Okay, you go. I just wanted to call it. Sorry.
Which one were you doing?
The one with is
at
it
the end of Jamis? At the end of first movie.
The first movie.
Yeah.
It
really
is
good. Really excellent. So scary.
It's scary. It is intimate. It is not embellished. It is just like,
yeah.
It's not like really long for no reason.
Yeah.
It's not gratuitous.
Right.
And the actual choreography is scary. It looks good because it's like a close knife fight and they do it well.
Yeah. I like the one when Jason Momoa is getting out of the palace. Not the one when he dies, but the one before he's escaped from the palace. And it's like you see like the use of the using the shield. I just think the shield was so cool.
Shield was cool.
The concept is really interesting.
Well, that'll lead us into our next
best coolest technology.
Yeah. Coolest technology.
I think it's the shield. I love the shield. I think it's so cool.
Very, very interesting.
And just what a cool power, and it's a really smart way to give it that. There's a way through. It's not just an impervious shield. It's almost impervious, but there is a way through, and it requires kind of like a little bit of skill to do it because you can get through. And the way they've gotten around it, where it's like that little assassin bug thing, the little seeker just drills until it can get through. It's so interesting. It's like they've adapted to it.
Yeah.
But it's like this interesting safety blanket that it's helpful.
And that like allows what's his face, the nephew, to like turn it off and like have a moment there.
Yeah.
It's good. It leans to some good storytelling, very interesting storytelling. But they don't overuse it. They don't like, it's not like a crutch anywhere.
Yeah. And really, again, another thing that's really well incorporated into the fight choreography.
Yes. I guess. It was a little confusing, I guess, in that first practice fight scene.
Yeah.
The use of the shield. It was like a setup for the rest of it.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I feel like they really highlighted it.
Yeah.
Then. And I'm like, I don't really understand why. They almost made it seem more important than it actually was.
Yeah.
It is interesting in the storytelling and they do a lot with it, but
it's a little clunky exposition.
Almost.
Bit.
It's not terrible.
No.
But it's like almost a little over highlighted in that scene. I would say this is like weird and dumb, but I think like the thumper.
Oh yeah.
It's really interesting.
How clever.
That like it's for the Fremen who are like not about the technology, but they're still using this technology, which is it's simple. It's not, it's like a simple machine, and it just like you need to put it in the right spot, and it's not like all powerful. It's not, but it's just like an interesting design and it's an interesting thing to like use for a lot of things. Cause like calling a worm, it's not that easy. And it like gives it like there's like a skill you have to learn to just do the calling part.
Right.
It could have been used a little bit cooler, but I think it is an interesting, it was like the thing that I'm like, there is technology. They are.
Yeah. I mean, well, even their suits are just like constantly transforming their pee into drinking water.
That's true.
But it's very minimal. Like their technology is minimal.
Right. Yeah. I guess their hydration stuff, I don't know why that's just like, it feels like a given. It feels like just like know that they can do this.
Yeah.
But it's like simple technology. But that one is like, it makes a big impact and is a very, very simple machine.
Yeah.
I find that very interesting.
Yeah. Love that. Now for biggest, like, what was that moment?
I think seeing Anya Taylor-Joy.
Anya Taylor-Joy moment was so weird. I was like, why is she? Are we going to see her?
A little bit confused about like the use of the fetus daughter. I was a little bit like,
confused.
I'm not really sure what this is yet.
Like, is the mom talking with her? Is
when
she just
shows
losing her mind?
up in
a dream,
in the vision,
in the
worm vision.
So weird. I love you. What? What was that?
I don't, and it made me think right then. I'm like, is she gonna be back?
Yeah.
Is she gonna be the baby? Is she gonna? Are we gonna see her more? I don't know.
I don't know. That was so weird.
So that was like they learn. I don't know. We didn't even have to see that at all.
No.
Like we could have cut the whole, because he talks about, we learn more after when he's like, this is what she said.
I mean, there's so many visions he has that we don't actually see the vision. He just tells us about the vision.
Yeah.
I wish we did that more. The visions were confusing by design, but like, it didn't matter. I didn't have to see the vision.
But that was like, I guess like that was the first time the vision was supposed to be like crystal clear.
Yeah.
I get that.
Sure.
But then like make it crystal clear.
It wasn't crystal clear.
No.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit like, why? I wish it's one of those moments where you're like, well, our imagination could have made it better.
Yeah.
Then
especially if you give us a famous person, then I'm like, okay, what was that?
Yes. That's the other thing. Like they Anya Taylor-Joy for 3 lines, for 3 words. Like it was like,
and I'm like, what so she's going to be back, right?
That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
A weird cameo.
Very weird.
Why would you spend that much money if you're not going to have her back?
Yeah.
There's not a reason for it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, she's not there the rest of the movie? There's not like we don't hear her voice or anything?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. If maybe she's just voice over the next movie.
Yeah. I'm going to have 2, I think. And one is just an honorable mention. But the one that I really have is, it's the black and white scene. I don't get it. Why was the whole Harkonnen scene in black and white? At first when it started, I was like, oh, I guess they are that pale. Mm-hmm. And then later on we see them and I'm like, wait, no, they're not pale. They're the same as everybody else. What is that? Why was that whole scene? It looks cool.
Yeah.
But it makes absolutely no sense to me. I'm like, are we watching it from somewhere? Is that the color of their sun? I don't know.
Maybe they only see in black and white. I guess it's like,
I have no idea.
That certainly didn't bother me. And I think it's interesting that it makes you question. I don't know. I think that is interesting in the storytelling. It's like, I guess their world is that black and white. It's like, wait a minute, it's not really that black and white. And we see a lot of other things.
Now that you say that, it makes me cringe at the obviousness of how black and white their world is. Blah, gross.
I don't know.
The symbolism is too obvious. No. I hate that. I don't mind it. I don't like that at all. And if it was going to be one of those things,
it smacks you in the face. I mean, you were like, I don't know what that was. I don't know. I thought it was interesting. I thought it was at least something happening, and I don't It did not detract for me.
They didn't do that more. Like you put it, like then put a filter on the Emperor's planet and put another filter on, you know, I guess they kind of had a filter on the Atreides planet. It was like more blue, but I don't know. Colton, what do you think about the black and white?
I was really confused at first, and I did look it up after because I was just like, was that a flashback or did they just decide to make this one scene black and white? Because why not? Do you want?
I want to know.
Yeah, tell us what
Apparently, it's like the sun on the Harkonnens' planet makes, or like something in like the atmosphere or something makes everything look black and white.
Okay.
So like if you were like if you were to travel there, everything would be in black and white, I guess. But
well,
they did not
state that, and I wish that they had.
They never said that in the movie.
No, that is unclear. Yes, they do a lot of that. Yes.
I wish that they had said
but
that.
I think maybe they were trying to do it visually.
And of course they were, because they gave it to us visually. But that just makes me sit there wondering: is this a flashback or what? And it's just like any kind of statement about how like, the colors here, you know, I do miss seeing color or whatever. You know, just something. Tell me something about the sun. Tell me, I don't know.
That is interesting. It's actually a very interesting concept.
I love that. I think that's really curious.
That like enhances the thing I like about that.
And if that had actually, I like that more now, the fact that it exists,
but
and now bad news that you didn't tell me. Yeah.
You're in trouble.
The honorable mention I have is when that traitor guy in the first movie starts talking with Paul Atreides in Mandarin.
Oh.
And I was like, do people speak Mandarin in space?
Do we know? Okay, look, was it actually Mandarin or does it just say on the screen? It was Mandarin.
Said on the screen. We were watching we
always do subtitles.
And it says in Mandarin he speaks this thing, and I was like, is that canon? Does he speak Mandarin? Is Mandarin a thing? What is this?
But it's like English. I don't know. It's just like a different language. It doesn't bother me.
It bothers me. I don't.
Doesn't bother me if they're speaking English. That like you don't have to make up every other freaking language. Like just like in your books that you narrate, you're not making up new accents for new places. Are ya?
Depends how good at accents you think I am.
Oh, I know how good I am.
Sure. Granted, yes,
It is the one time it happens.
It only happens one time, and it's a little confusing.
Yes,
and no other cultures speak a different language except for the Fremen, which does have their own language.
Yes, they do have
They
their own
didn't
language.
choose like Latin or anything. Like if they had chosen their own another Earth language and called it the Fremen language, then I would have accepted it more.
Sure. I just like,
I don't need you to create a new language every time you commit. That's fine with me if you want to like state that we're in this different world and Mandarin isn't a thing. I'm just wondering
if you wouldn't have had a problem if it didn't say in Mandarin and you just assumed it was speaking something else.
Yeah, probably not.
That's my point. In that they don't expect you to be watching it and for it to say
in Mandarin. Yeah. Well, it's a mistake to the subtitlers. That's a big error on your part. I wouldn't have noticed, but you told me, and so now it's there.
Yeah.
Okay, but that was just an honorable mention.
Yeah.
Do we have another one?
I think that's it.
Can I? Yeah. I don't mean to, put myself into your guys' show.
Please do.
I do have one that I've been confused about since I saw it.
Ooh.
So after Paul and like the whole army, they get to where the emperor and all those guys are like doing their thing, and the emperor comes out of his throne. And as Paul is like confronting them, the big fat Harkonnen guy starts like crawling up the stairs towards the throne.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And then that's it.
Yeah.
And then it just like the scene plays out and that's it. And after I'm like, was like if he got to the throne, is he the ruler?
Right,
I was very, very confused by that.
Oh, that's so funny. I had exactly the same thought when I was
Okay.
watching it. I thought exactly the same thing. I was like, oh, is that like a rule that you just like sit on the throne and you win?
Yeah.
Is that how that
I just had to
happens?
get that off because I was very confused.
That was confusing to me too.
Oh, yeah, now they bring
Maybe
it
your
up.
girlfriend will let you know when she gets there in the book.
What is your I'm curious too. What would you give an Oscar to? What's your favorite part of the movie?
I think the best part of the movie is my favorite part of the movie is Paul's speech before they go to attack the emperor and all that stuff. And he's like telling each like division of the military or whatever. Like, you guys are going to come from this side and you guys will come from this side. I felt ready to like run through a brick wall for those people after he did that speech. I thought that was very powerful and very cool.
Fun.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. That one, it was like it's like, you're like,
Rousing.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get why you feel like that. Yes.
Yeah. Really rousing. I think the last thing was most surprising casting.
I mean, Christopher Walken.
Christopher Walken. And for me, I'm going to give it to Javier Bardem because I was so surprised by him.
Honestly, I think both of them do an excellent job.
They do an excellent job.
I thought Christopher Walken was superb.
Really
I was
good.
Like, okay.
But so weird to see Christopher Walken in Dune. It's so weird.
Because he's like such a caricature as a human.
Yeah.
Or like we talk him up to be a caricature when like, he's not really in practice.
Right.
And he does so, I think it's like such a good performance.
Yeah.
I think he does very well.
Yeah. And Javier Bardem is excellent.
Oh, he is so good.
Mostly because when he came on the screen, I didn't recognize him, and he was talking, and I was like, "Oh, they got a look-alike or a sound-alike of Javier Bardem."
Yeah, just
and then like later on,
I was like, Javier Bardem.
I forgot Javier Bardem was in that.
I know he's like so weird in that movie.
Yeah,
I think it's like it's not bad casting. It's just like a weird.
He's a weird chameleon.
But I don't know. It didn't. Whatever happened with King Triton in that movie didn't work for me.
No.
And it made me like, is he good? And I watched this one. I'm like, oh yeah.
Oh, he's excellent.
Yeah. So whatever happened with Little Mermaid has nothing to do with him.
No, it was the fins that threw him off.
That's what it
is.
It was
just wet all the time. It's just so wet.
Shut up.
Okay.
Oh my God.
Cool. All right. That's all.
That's all
For our superlatives.
So
I'm all done. I'm all talked out. Sorry it was so long.
It's been a long one.
You're welcome. I mean, this is so long. You're welcome. And if you got a problem with it, just listen at 2 times the speed.
Oh my gosh, we did it in less time than one movie.
Yeah,
so
you're welcome.
I don't feel that bad.
Thank you so much for listening, tuning in, watching us on the YouTube. You can catch us wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you to Chicago Podcast Studio and our producer.
If you ever want to do a podcast, come to Chicago Podcast Studio. They got
us
went out
fancy
of their
glasses
way to get us soda water.
Soda stream.
We're like, we kind of like soda water, and then we showed up and they had
a soda
stream. So
they're lovely. So
we love
Tom
them.
and Colton at Chicago Podcast Studio, thank you so much. Thank you, Colin. And you can follow us at all of the socials. I'm going to do a better job with credits in the future because we should do that. But catch us again next time, and make sure you subscribe on YouTube because we're there. Is that it? That's it. Thank you so much. I am Pavi Prochko. And remember, if you really want to get something done, all you have to do is scream it in that voice. Voice.
That's right. And I'm Colin Funk. And remember, if you let the AI win, then we're living on a planet with sandworms. So
fantastic.
Yeah.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of 2 Grooms, 1 Plot, a Pavitas Productions project, hosted by Colin Funk and Pavi Prochko. This podcast was produced by Chicago Podcast Studio. Our opening cartoon was created by Gloriu, and our theme song was composed by me, Pavi Prochko. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite listening platform. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at 2 Grooms, 1 Plot for updates on new episodes and behind-the-scenes content. If you have any feedback, comments, concerns, or kudos, you can email us at 2groomsOneplot@gmail.com. Please rate and review us wherever you can. It would help us out a bunch. Thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you next time.